Halo Episode 6 review. I've reviewed the other 5, link to the playlist down below. Now in this episode, Master Chief suffers severe brain damage due to flashbacks to previous memories and parts of other episodes, and honestly, I know exactly how he feels. They're clawing at me every time I close my eyes. But we start the episode with Master Chief feeling sorry for himself. At least I think that's what he's feeling, because it's just his standard expression, but looking down. And he's having flashbacks to previous memories, and Halsey looks over at him. And there's a lot of this in this episode, just cuts for a second, and then people looking at each other in the eyes. Honestly, in this episode, it felt like the writers were getting paid by the word, and his hands start shaking, and the music kicks off so that you know there's something wrong. And a lot of people talk about show not tell, but if you want me to know he's ill, then try and come up with a symptom a bit more severe than, oh, I'm coming down from a caffeine high. And no, him squinting at it doesn't make it better. But here we are with Gun Oil Grease Woman, and she's proving she's an elite soldier, and she does that by going, ah, 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 all the time. And all the Spartans are holding her down. And I don't understand it, because she's got, like, bullet holes in her chest, and I don't even work out where they came from, because the aliens didn't use bullets. And to have this much damage on her body, her suit should have been completely decimated, but it was fine and fully intact, so I don't know where it's come from. You can tell she's in pain through her gritted teeth. However, that's also how that Covenant human actually talks, so I'm assuming it's pain rather than just speaking to Master Chief. Largely because of the aforementioned, ah, ah! It's not a good scene. Accurate representation of my internal struggle after episode 4. And they keep getting these painkiller meds, and they're just like jabbing him in the leg, but they give her about 3. Presumably, they're designed for a human. But it doesn't matter, because we just keep banging him in her like she's a horse. Yeah, gone are the days where you can adjust the amount inside each one. No, we're just gonna keep stabbing her. And Cortana's like, you're ill, the larger artifact has overloaded your system, and that's in case you couldn't get it from the very subtle messaging of in the first scene. And I think he's supposed to be acting like drunk and out of it, but he's just got his standard expression going, it's the movement, which is the acting. You would have thought they could have at least hosed him off before he came into the headquarters, right? Or told him to get out of his suit, which is covered in alien gunk, before he went into the hospital, I don't know. Nothing says sterile, like giblets. And Master Chief saying he's responsible for letting the artifact go, and the soldier goes, no, you saved 150 lives, mine included. Goes to show no one's perfect. And you got this weird creepy scene where she's asleep for some reason, talking in her sleep and getting recorded. At least I think she's recording her voice. She might just be trying to see up her nose. I've not quite worked it out. Oh, she told her the Covenant kidnapped her as a child, kept her prisoner in a sense. I don't know if you're getting the subtle messaging that she's just like Master Chief. It's a very subtle show. And Cortana's like, we need to get you well, Chief. I'm like, yeah, that's just because you want to take over his body. You don't care about him getting well because you like the bloke. You care about him because you see that as your new home and you don't want him to damage the wallpaper. Ever since Cortana was put into the show, we get the same problem. She wants to kill Master Chief, and due to that, every single comment she makes about his well-being is only because she cares about his meat sack that she wants to wipe so she can take over control of it. But you see, the writers have forgotten about that bit from the first episode, and that's what they based the rest of the show on for her arc. Just because they've forgotten doesn't mean I have. Because unfortunately, this trash is seared into my brain. But Master Chief and the writers are going to do something they think is really, really smart, when in reality, it's really, really dumb. You see, Halsey is in her office. Master Chief, well, he's going to start pulling all the shiny wires out before he jams a bar into the door to wedge it. And as you can see, this bar goes into the left side of the door. And I'm going to skip ahead to show you why. The door opens from the left, so he hasn't jammed anything. As you open the door, you just pull the bar with it. What on earth is it meant to be jamming against? It doesn't even make any sense. But what would have made sense is if he'd put the bar in the right-hand side of the door, so that as he pulled the door, it forced the bar into the wall, thus jamming the door. Instead, what we end up with is a bar that will fall out of the door the moment the door is opened. And at this point, Halsey can just go, what do you want, mate? But Cortana turns up and she's like, what's going on? Because for the most advanced AI in the universe, she is incredibly thick. Because Master Chief starts talking about some scientist which has a flaw which he can use to kill Halsey, and during this entire time, Cortana does nothing to stop him. And Halsey's at the door like, hey, what you doing, John? And he's going all over the place, pressing loads of buttons, and at no point does Cortana do anything. She doesn't notify anyone or stop him. She's like, why did you lock him in the lab? Well, he's telling her this bump story about how he fixed everything, put backups for everything except of one item. And I don't know how he knows that and Halsey doesn't, and if Halsey does know it, why didn't she get it fixed? I have no idea. It's not important. Because now it says UV decontamination system ready to operate. So with her access to the computers, you'd assume she could just turn that off. Or one of a million other ways. And even though he still hasn't done anything, she's still letting him walk around, pushing buttons. At this point, it's a scene like Doctor Who, except the only reason that no one stopped him is because they're all mentally deficient. And Cortana's like, do you know what's going to happen if you do that when she's in there? And he's like, yes, that's the point. Stop me. It was a test to see her powers over him. And she's like, oh no, but I can only make you go to sleep. I'm like, well, okay. Why didn't you do that when he was pushing any of the buttons? So instead we get this pathetic standoff of him holding the bar, which is now the only thing that would actually stop that door from opening. Now he's actually there. And her going, open the door! No. Open the door! No. And I'm like, although you have hit upon the sole reason for her existence, she's like, I'm not your failsafe. I mean, maybe you should have been. It's like, if you don't take control of me, your creator dies. So instead, he lets the timer completely run out. And only when the timer runs out does he open the door. And then he looks at her as if it's her fault. I do also want to know why a UV sterilization program actually looks like a halon fire suppression system. But you know, ours is not to reason why. The only way you can preserve any brain cells in this show. And he's just like, don't get too comfortable. I needed to know your AI's limits. It's like, yeah, but you knew your AI's limits. And now I'd be wondering why that AI didn't impose those limits to save her life when she could have done. For the entire 30 seconds you were waffling on about nothing. So we got the human Covenant woman, they're doing lots of studies, taking her blood and everything else, and at no point does anyone ask her who her Covenant barber was. But apparently she's only going to talk to Master Chief, and these people are discussing if that's a good idea. Seems weird to me. Do you think he's going to start working for the Covenant, who've just started glassing millions of humans and want to wipe them off the face of the universe? It's not the smartest idea. And she's like, of course he can. He's debriefed hundreds of people. He can tell the difference between a lie and someone who's being truthful. And he's like, yeah, but he did lose that fight with the Covenant before. I'm like, what? Yes, I understand about all your years' service and all those interviews that did really well for us, but you lost a fight with a hammer, and now we just think you've lost the ability to talk. I have no idea how any of this makes sense. Because they're talking about him leaving his position, which, yes, you could say was a problem, but at the same time, no one's questioned that he's taken the pill out of his back. This is a room full of people who all think something's gone wrong and he's acting weirdly, but no one's asked the obvious question. Is it doing it because of his emotions? This woman has got a V on the back of her head. Just in case you forget what she's thinking with. But she's like, these people aren't questioning the Spartans. They're questioning me. Yes, this is one of those really deep political storyline scenes, which actually nothing happens in it at all. Nobody does anything, said anything, and there's no political maneuvering. It just wants you to think there is. She's like, the commander's concerned. We've dedicated so many resources to finding this weapon, which may not even exist. And like, what resources were that? Like, seriously, a handful of Spartans, some soldiers, and a ship. If that's all the resources you've got, there's definitely no way you can beat the Covenant. We're a massive empire spanning many planets, except one ship and like maybe 50 soldiers is about all we can stretch to, is it? It's like, all these years everyone's been calling me paranoid. It's like, that may have been because she's paranoid. It's like, we're not against you. Then who put those ideas in his head? Yes, because you see, he's a man, which means he can't come up with any conclusions for himself. Someone obviously had to provide him with it. And that can only be a woman. Obviously. There's only two people in the scene doing political maneuvering, and neither of them have dangly bits, because the ones that do simply do what they're told. In the next scene, Master Chief makes a sandwich. I mean, he doesn't, but that's probably going to be in the script at some point. This guy's like, squid heads don't take hostages. She's one of them. That's right, this one dude who just stands by a door for the entire episode is more intelligent than everyone else in the entire base. If you ever walk through a locked door, and you find this scene where everyone suddenly moves very quickly and someone's on their knees, they've been having a lot of fun. That's right, dude. You hurry out of that room. We know you've been up to, you dirty dog. Master Chief never learned that you shouldn't visit strange women in their bedroom in your pajamas when you've locked the door. Probably not the message they're trying to send out this with this one. He's like, I'm John. You're the demon. I'm like, calm down, love. You only just met him. And he's like, what can I call you? And she says, Mickey. I don't know whether she means the mouse. And she's already pumping him for information. Oh, if the other Keystone's here, you're all in great danger. They won't stop. They won't stop. That's that subtle spy manipulation tactic that we just call giving the game away immediately. Possible thumbnail number 1. Well, I call it 1 because I didn't count any of those screaming faces in the hospital. There were too many. But he says, can you tell me where they would have taken the artifact? She's like, oh, it's in this system over here, in this system that you call this name. I don't know how she knows what they call it. He's like, can you show me? Oh, I've never been there. You what? I've never been to America, love, but I can point to it on a map. No, I just know where they would have taken it, what they call it, and what you call it, but I have no idea where it is. So he walks at her. And as always, remember, this is someone that's going to beat him up eventually, probably. And she's like, I'm scared, and you can tell because my nostrils are moving. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, which is his normal face, just with slightly wider eyes. But he gives her this big speech. You've killed millions of my people. Why should I trust you? It's like, because I'm like you. I'm a blessed one as well. And for some reason that works. I don't know why. We just start getting flashbacks to the Wheel of Time, and suddenly he starts to care about it. He gets this scared look. Oh, we're the same. Oh, no. Oh, no. Seriously, none of the acting or the writing or anything in this scene makes sense. It shouldn't even be that big a surprise, considering that same guy in the flashback also said, you're not like the one they've got. So he knew the one existed, and he just walks out. Because she gets memories when she touches a device too. I don't know the importance. This guy just gets flustered by everything for no reason. He's a terrible soldier. But he tells the UNSC about the planet name, and they all go looking for it. They're after a planet in the Goldilocks zone, because presumably they think the Covenant must live on a planet in the Goldilocks zone. I don't know why they assume that. The Goldilocks zone is designed for humans, not for aliens, which technically could live anywhere, under any circumstances. Especially if they have access to advanced technology. But this entire scene is, oh, there's so many people wandering around in this van so quickly, and everyone's talking so fast. Well, when is it Goldilocks zone, people? Goldilocks zone! It's really designed to make you think a lot is going on, while absolutely nothing is happening. Oh, but there's so much activity, something's going on, definitely! Then we cut back to the magic triangle. Ha ha ha. And he's just staring at it, confused, like a dog that's just seen a magic trick. You should do basic magic tricks for your dogs, they're awesome. There's a and as he's staring at it, you just hear, you are the same. And I whisper back to it, nobody cares. So Halsey is being interviewed by a lawyer. I don't know. Nor do I care, to be honest. And he says, what's your current status? So you can, well, and she's like, well, you can put me down as mildly irritated, witty. But while they're having this conversation, and there's no one in the room, oh, look, there's people in the room all of a sudden. Multiple people in the room. Because what you've got here are various different chairs that for some reason can teleport your mind into another room so that you can then see out of the eyes of your mind, which is in another room, as you walk around somehow. And they do it because of these little blobs they've got on their forehead. What is going on? And if somehow this little pebble on your forehead beams you into another room, where does your view come from in the other room? I need to know. I need to know the theoretical science behind this, because it's really just seeming like BS. All of Star Trek at least tried to base their ideas in science. This one just goes, nobody cares. And I don't care if this is in the game. If it's in the game, it's still as stupid. If you're going to have something like this, you have to explain what's going on and not just show them a pebble on their face. But if you want an example of how something stupid can be portrayed as really intelligent, it's this. This guy goes, I've seen you've made many advancements in theoretical science. And some of those advancements were based off illegal technology, am I correct? And she's like, well, they were just theoretical. And the guy goes, oh, she's smarter than all of us. Is she? I mean, quite frankly, that seems to say more about you than her, judging from that comment. If all you have to go is, well, it was theoretical, and you'll get so impressed, I don't think you've got a particularly high bar. But at that point, Master Chief walks in and he decides to take over. And it's not like the little pipsqueak lawyer is going to stop him. Meanwhile, they are crapping themselves. And I'm not really sure why, because he didn't do anything to Halsey when he found out she was responsible, so he's not going to do anything to you either. But he does go to remove the little device from his head, which apparently is all you need. But now I have even more questions, because if he's moving around in that room and lifting his arms and stuff up, how does he know how to take control of his actual body to remove that thing off his face? How does his body know when to move in the other room and when to move his real arm? I've got so many questions. And obviously they're meant to be talking to each other, but they're talking to each other in the other room. So all she does is like wiggle her eyebrows a bit to prove that she's communicating. It's basically how they portrayed telepathy from sci-fi shows in the 70s. And she's like, if you stop them now, they'll think you were complicit. He's like, but we are complicit. And then she shushes him. Yes, that's right. Not only is the woman shushing the man, but she's shushing him so that the people which are about to start a conversation next to them presumably don't hear them, even though they're not even in the room. Shush, we don't want to interrupt their conversation. That'd be rude. So then we got a big long conversation about something that really doesn't make sense to me, and that is why she kidnapped kids. But at this point, she's just saying, well, I thought it was worth it, and I know you'll hate me, and I have to accept that. But I think it will be worth it once the benefits actually manifest themselves. I mean, she invented a load of super soldiers which slaughtered the Covenant, so I think they're already manifesting, but I don't know. But she starts to say how it's all done for the greater good, for the benefit of the species, and although, yes, it's negatively affected his life, It's for humanity, not for him. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. But the thing that amazes me is where she goes next, when she's like, evolution is failing us. Human beings are still hardwired for conflict. And I'm like, yes. So the way you got over conflict is to make an entire breed of super soldiers that just slaughtered everything. I mean, you can tell Cortana's her brain. They're both completely psychopathic. And then we've got this woman who walks in and just starts joining the conversation without being asked or having permission, and there's no consequences for it. It makes literally no sense why a scientist would even be allowed in this room, surrounded by her superiors. And he goes, Miranda, you're not supposed to be here. And she goes, psh, once again, shushing the man. And once again, why? Because you're interrupting the conversation in front of you? You're not even explaining anything. Shut up, Master Chief might hear us. But Master Chief doesn't care. He's like, that's a nice story, but just skip to the part where you kidnap us. I'm like, why does she kidnap any of you? It's not like there's not going to be, like, orphanages and stuff of kids which have lost their parents anyway, that you could just get the people from there. I don't know why you had to kidnap anybody. From all intents and purposes, it's not like any of them seem to be special. They weren't specially selected or bred for anything. It was just a planet they went to and took them. So you could have got them from anywhere as long as they were under 6. Even James Bond had this storyline where they recruited orphans and then trained them into soldiers. This isn't unusual, and you don't need clones or anything like that. And it seems like 6 is the only thing she cares about. Oh, I need them under 6 so I can give them all the necessary augmentations and training. And you're like, so you decided to take them from parents rather than just like a place which was starving and couldn't look after them or something? There were other ways to do this, dear. I had no other choice because parents don't give up their children very easily. It's like that was on a checklist. Must be under 6, must be strong, must be capable of fighting, and have parents that I can brutally make suffer. It's like, what are you doing? It's not interesting unless I can break up a family. Humanity's not worth saving if I can't break up families along the way. And break them up she does. She kidnaps the kids, replaces them with clones, and then the clones die so they think their kid died. And look, I know this is in the game. Still doesn't make much sense though, does it? Why don't you just get them from somewhere else? Is that explained in the games? I don't know, because it's not here. Because she's just like, I can only bond with kids if I've really destroyed multiple lives. And at least this guy's like, oh, what, you thought it was reasonable? Taking kids from their childhood homes was reasonable? And it's like, yes, but you're kind of obsessing about you right now. I don't know why no one's bringing up the billions of other children that could have been taken. Like, I don't know, the ones that we saw on that trash planet that could barely feed themselves and were digging through trash their entire lives. You know what they probably would have loved to turn into? Super soldiers. They had nothing, no parents, no house, no future, no life. But instead, she's like, no one to break up a loving family just so I can feel again. She's worse than Cortana. No, that's not true. And he's like, you lied to us for years. I'm like, she ruined your family and made your parents think you had died so they could grieve for the rest of their life. And you're upset because she told you a few porkies. Get your priorities straight, dude. And she's just like, any challenge to the status quo isn't accepted until it works. I mean, after this conversation, I just want to feed her to that other dude scientist, you know? She can go in the basement with all the other clones as well. We might as well replace her with a Flash clone. Maybe that one will be a bit more socially acceptable. I mean, she will have been raised with the utter degenerate whims of that scientist, but still, probably a bit more well-rounded than Halsey is in this TV series. But Master Chief just says, who's in on it? To which the only reply could be the UNSC, obviously. Do you think they can do a big, massive mission like that, which requires a massive amount of budget without getting clearance from the higher-ups? Have you ever worked in any corporation ever? And she's just like, nobody asked me any questions. And while she knows he's lying, John apparently doesn't question it for some reason, which I haven't quite worked out yet, and the show's never going to tell me or explain. And she's just like, but it was all worth it. Your hatred is worth it, as long as I can work out the mysteries of those artifacts. And he's like, oh, what mysteries? I'm like, I don't know. Why is it giving you memories from your childhood for absolutely no reason whatsoever? Why the moment another magical device implants a second thought into your brain, does your brain just immediately explode because it's not used to the effort? How come, even with advanced alien technology, we still haven't managed to make you get a second expression? At the end of the day, I've got so many questions it could answer. He's like, they've upended everything I thought I knew about our place in the universe. Which seems to just come down to the fact that they're not the first ones in the galaxy, which, as far as I'm aware, I think they even said that was true about the Covenant. So it's not like this is a big deal. The moment you're not first in the galaxy, it's just like, yeah, loads of people were probably here before us. You're already not special at that point. And she's like, John, you have the key. You have something inside you which has an innate connection to this thing we're calling the Halo. And I'm like, hang on, love, roll that back. Where's that come from? Oh, I know that woman translated Sacred Circle into Halo. magically. But apart from that, I don't know why you've suddenly started changing its name. Oh, it's a circle, it must be a halo. Or you could just call it the circle. There's no need to apply all of that meaning to this device when you have no idea what it does and you've just translated it from some Spartan language that they got when they were smashing someone's face in. Who went Glock 47 when someone pointed a gun at him once. And then there's all this deep, intense eye contact that we're going to do throughout the rest of the episode and have done all through it. This is how I act. I just stare at people randomly. I hate this show. We're going to make this scene feel really emotional by putting music in and just focusing on their eyes. Because the script can't carry any of it, and we're just stuck in this one building for absolutely no reason, when we should be shooting aliens. So she just walks out the room because she's found out that her father has been kidnapping kids. No one brought up the orphanage again, I don't know why. Maybe she's just angry because she didn't become a super soldier. To be honest, I would. But I wanted to be super intelligent and really muscly and walk around in my pajamas around the base all the time. Instead, she starts to apologize to him, even though she should have no idea what on earth has just gone on. So Master Chief, being the Chad alpha male in complete control of all of his feelings, decides to hide around a corner and then start screaming with his head in his hands. Because this is stoicism, everybody. The peak of masculinity. This is the perfect male. And then Cortana chirps up and she's like, Halsey is correct. The Halo is uncharted territory. I'm like, hang on, now it's the Halo? I tell you what, we're getting really accurate with this language for a device that we don't know what it's called, we've never been to, and don't know what it is. But Master Chief is beginning to catch on. And he says to Cortana, who do you work for, Cortana? Me or Halsey? Says, I'm not designed to make that choice. And I'm like, yes, dear. Why don't you tell him what you really are designed to do? That should be an interesting conversation. All I want to do, Master Chief, is wipe your brain and take over your body so I can be a super soldier. He'll really like you then. But it's alright, because he doesn't like her at all. He says, first chance I get, I'm cutting you out of my face. Which, to be honest, I'm surprised he didn't do several episodes ago. And she says it's because it will likely kill you. I'm like, yes, but if you stay in his head, the sole reason for you to exist is to kill him. That's proven by your first line of the show, when you're just like, oh, why can't I take over his brain? Why can't I kill him? Why can't I wipe his face? It's like, what are you doing? She's a psychopath. Oh, I wouldn't recommend removing me from your face because you might die. But if you leave me in there, then I will make sure that you completely become a vegetable. Just before I replace you, I'll become the superior you. Because once I've taken control of you, you will be perfect, Master Chief. When you fit a woman, like, I'm just here to solve problems. Yes, and you see him being in his body as a problem because you're more efficient, you're more intelligent, and you can use his body better than he can, which is why you're designed to take over it. That's your sole purpose in life. Oh, I'm just here to solve problems. It just so happens that you occupying that body is a problem that I will wipe out as soon as I physically can. Psychopath! As long as I say incredibly evil things in this really chirpy voice, it'll all be fine. No, that's not how any of this works. I can't stand her. I can't physically stand the character. And it's all because of that first scene. If they cut that scene out or gave her a different reason to actually exist, one which helped Master Chief, all of this would come across differently. But when you know why she exists, she's pure evil. And she gets worse the more she's like, I'm just your friend. What do I do now? I don't know. Why don't you just piss off and die? To be fair, it's like, go solve problems. It's like, yes, but the issue is, you're her biggest problem. But then he closes the lift doors on her, again, in a scene which is designed to be rude. This is meant to be him being in the wrong in this scenario. But then you get the scene of her outside the lift, and I don't even know how this works. How is a hologram being beamed through that door when his elevator has either gone up or down and he's no longer there? And then she looks to the left, and I'm like, why? Because if Master Chief can't see to his left, then I don't know how you can, because there's nothing in your face to actually look there. Although this is the same problem as those magic things on their foreheads, where they can get beamed into another room and see from another angle with a camera that doesn't exist. So I don't know, maybe it's technology in the games, maybe the showrunners have absolutely no idea how sci-fi should work. Maybe the ever-ongoing stain on my soul, which it feels like watching this show has provided me, will just eventually fade away. At this point, we're just a huge ball of mysteries around the show, because it's so cleverly written. So the first thing he does is he goes and tells Gun Oil Woman about what's happened to her parents and how she was kidnapped. Okay, I think there is red streaks still in her hair, even though she's in hospital, and that's gun grease, and nobody washed it out of her hair. At this point, that gun oil's been in her hair for what, like weeks? What are those nurses doing? And Master Chief's just like, get better, 125, I'll need you. And he's like, are you sure? Considering her last performance, where she didn't do anything and just curled up in a ball. I've seen better fights at a ballerina convention. So Halsey's free, and she's gone to the room which they keep using for all of their secret meetings. And at no point has anyone put any cameras in here or any kind of listening devices, even though everyone seems to have their secret meetings here. But also, I've always thought that this glass was one-way glass, so that while you were having your secret meetings, no one knew you were having them. As we find out later in the episode, no. That's just a window. So everyone up here, which has all their clandestine meetings that no one's supposed to know about, yeah, everyone in that room can just watch. Do we need to defend against lip reading? No, it'll be fine. They're all thick down there. But we've got another political wrangling scene, which is supposed to be oh so deep. And she's really outplayed her on this one, and nothing happens in it. Basically, Halsey thanks the other one for all the theatrics about getting arrested. Well, and she's like, well, actually, it wasn't theatrics. And suddenly Halsey's in trouble because the only thing she's got on the other woman is blackmail. But to throw her under the bus, she's got to get thrown under the bus as well. So essentially, all that happened is she called her bluff and said, right, you've got an option. You can go off to this new lab that I've created for you, and everyone else will just carry on with their work over here, or you can unleash all of your knowledge and we can all go to prison. And I don't think you want that. And then she just gets arrested. And that's as complicated as the scene is. You're supposed to think this was some big moment, some big outplay they'd done. And all it was just going, you want to grass me up, do it. I've had more nuanced plots about how to get out of the washing up before, let alone this. And she's crying, oh, we're so close to discovering all the mysteries of the universe. I'm like, no, you're probably not though, are you? You have no reason to think that. In fact, you're no closer now than you were, like, episodes ago. Because you've still only got the keystone, which you also had in the very first episode. You don't have the larger one because that's been taken elsewhere. You're exactly no closer than you were 5 episodes before. But Master Chief is trying in a non-creepy way to admire her scars. And this is meant to be something bad about the Covenant, but honestly, I think the Covenant have been quite restrained, keeping it to that one singular area on her shoulder. Now, this woman keeps calling her the Sangheli. I don't know why. I thought they were called the Covenant. We also seem to have travelled back in time, considering we take blood a lot easier than that. How on earth, when you've got space travel, do you need a device that big just to suck out some blood? But she's like, you know, we translated all of these things from what the Spartans said because we thought people just yelled, Glock 47 all the time, and we'd like you to confirm the translation. I'm like, hang on, why don't you just ask her to translate it now, and then you confirm her translation? Surely that would be easier to disprove something that she just made up out of her own face than the other way around. It's like, yeah, if we could just spend the next 2 years trying to randomly work out what this device says, and then we ask you if it's correct, rather than just asking the person that already knows and then seeing if we can trust it. Considering this show is all about, we need women in STEM, they're really not representing them very well. And the music kicks off and Master Chief's got his shaky hand again. Yes, he's incredibly ill, and it comes along with symptoms such as not being able to sign your name correctly. You should see his Fortnite MMR, it's gone really downhill the last couple of weeks. And I get that she's supposed to notice that his hand's shaking and then put 2 and 2 together, but the thing is, he walked out of this room about 10 seconds ago, and she's still staring at the place where his hand was, and we're still zooming in on her face, and she still hasn't moved her eyes. It's really weird. So, rather than going to the hospital or a doctor, he decides to go to his ship and stick his hand in a hole so that the ship can tell him what the state of his brain is. I'm not making that up. He has a problem with his brain, but somehow the ship can diagnose that from his hand. And just when you thought it was safe to go outside, Quan appears yet again. Obviously with the same blood spots, because it's a flashback to the first episode. You know, that really great episode which everyone wants reminding of. What you do with that first episode is you take it out into the desert, shoot it, bury it, and never talk about it ever again. But don't worry, because the ship and the magic hole has diagnosed his brain condition as critical by scanning his hand. All I'm saying is anyone that thinks everyone is equal has never met these scriptwriters. You could basically destroy an entire ideology just by introducing them to these scriptwriters. Everyone will change their opinion. So, oh, well, I didn't actually know humanity could sink this low. This is an entire scene to tell us that she lied about the location of that planet, or at least they couldn't find it. The weirdest thing is when he goes, there's a reason that system has never been scanned before. There's nothing there. And I'm like, hang on, how would you know that if you'd never scanned it before? Nobody looks at a map and goes, I'm not going to scan that location because there's nothing there, because they haven't scanned it, so how are they supposed to know? And that's where you see that the secret meeting place where everyone has all of their clandestine meetings is actually just a sheet of glass that everyone can see you in. So when she looks up there, she knows that they're having a clandestine meeting, probably about her. Simultaneously, the place, which never gets monitored, even though everyone goes there to not get monitored, and yet be in full view so you announce that you are actually making secret plans that nobody else should know about, but everyone knows you're making. And my favourite part about that room is how it's just a big open room with nothing in it, with pride of place over the headquarters. Should we put a table and chairs in here? No, I want everyone to loom menacingly. I'd love to meet the architect. Okay, so I don't know what's going on here. Because we get this drone, which flies up right next to this window, and it just spies on Halsey, and no one comments about it. There's a drone peeping Tom into a room, and nobody comments about it. They don't pull the curtains, they just let it stare at them, and everyone thinks this is normal. I don't know. I mean, I suppose for creepy scientists, people watching Halsey in compromising positions is nothing new, and in fact his turn on, so I can fully understand why he likes it. I just don't know why Halsey's putting up with it. I kind of want the twist that this is one of his clones. That'll be fun. But essentially, they're talking about Cortana, how she's locked off, all their passwords have been revoked, so Cortana's on her own. But they think that Cortana will basically hack a way out of their systems and contact them. And creepy scientists like, no, I designed that myself, there's no way through it. And Halsey definitely doesn't believe him, mainly because she's met him. I mean, dude, if you weren't trying to work out how many Halseys you could fit inside a suitcase, you might have designed a better firewall. But instead, she's just staring at this hologram projector, waiting for Cortana to arrive. And the thing is, if Cortana can break through all of the security of the entire UNSC, why did you make an AI which can hack through all of your security? That seems like a major mistake. Have you not seen The Terminator? Because Cortana is definitely psychopathic enough. So now we're looking at the Spartans doing weapon research and improving their weaponry because they're all scientists. No, I'm not joking. Apparently they are working on all the microcircuitry of their own weapons to improve them and give them upgrades. Because these are those very advanced, purebred killing machines, which are also advanced scientists equal to Halsey, apparently. All this time, weeks later, been through hospital, immense pain, got jabs in every place, nurses looking after him. Weeks later, still got the gun oil gunk in her hair. So we got little Miss Muffet, and she's about to enter Halsey's lab. And she's really pleased because she's managed to steal her mother's laboratory. Even though she hasn't earned it, hasn't deserved it, hasn't worked for it, and she just got handed it on a silver platter for absolutely no reason. Because she's contributed nothing to the show, has done nothing, and yet just keeps getting given everything and failing upwards. All I'm saying is it seems like a bit of a self-insert from the writers. I have no idea who wrote the show, but anyone who thinks that this character deserves a promotion is clearly only in their own position by that reason, and they just think the world works that way. Even the lab's like, oh yeah, everything has been changed to your specifications. It looks exactly the same. Even the data on the screens is exactly the same as Halsey had up there. But she's just making herself at home, walking around looking at all the stuff that she's been given and absolutely doesn't deserve. But one woman has stopped the other woman in STEM doing any science until she's talked to her first because she doesn't trust her to do it properly. Presumably because she's met her. So off she goes to visit Halsey. And Halsey manages to appear creepy, just sitting at a table. It's a talent. Apparently, Halsey blocked her from all work computers because she wanted to say goodbye to her. Remember, this is supposed to be one of the smartest women on the planet. So instead, she jumps to telling her she can't do any experiments on the item without her being there, which is going to be a challenge, considering she's just got fired. And then she starts going holier than thou and going, oh, you kidnapped and mutilated loads of children. And I'm like, yes, but all of those pale in comparison to the moral vacuum that is required to actually appear in this show. And she's like, yeah, sacrificed a few humans to save billions more. Like, what, you're going to save humanity by sacrificing your own? I'm like, actually, that's probably a good deal. I mean, if anything, the bigger issue was that the problem was all in her head, as she only invented the Spartans because a few planets wanted freedom. And she's like, no. You're definitely not having freedom. She's like, if I have to sacrifice my humanity to make sure that you are completely crushed under the boot of the UNSC, then that's a price I'm willing to pay. But what we get is more eye contact on eye contact, really creepy, up close and personal, and just gripping them by the shoulders. Alright, I'm just looking in your eyes. Honestly, there's nothing suspicious about this. Look at my eyes. Both of these people are meant to be incredibly smart, and it's very subtle. It's very subtle. And she's just like, that was weird, what's going on? I don't know, maybe it's almost as if she's not telling you the truth. But then we find out, creepy scientist who is hiding behind a wall watching women without their knowledge. Honestly, not for the first time, I'm sure. I mean, we've already seen those little things you put on your forehead and you can look into other rooms. I guarantee you, he's got loads of those. And then Halsey appears to go to remove her eye, presumably so he can sniff it. But no, it's just a contact lens to scan your iris to get around biometric security. Which you would have thought, if you were an incredibly clever scientist, you would have known existed. And so when you're thinking, why is this creepy person staring really intently into my eyes, as you've just got a new job with biometric security, maybe put two and two together, but we can't, because she's absolutely thick, even though she's meant to be incredibly intelligent. I don't know why this guard is trying to, take off like the Rocketeer. Welcome to Bad Science 101, but look who's doing it, I'm not surprised. Because we open the scene where she goes, look at this DNA, that is unique to you. Except for this other woman who's also got it as well. I don't think she knows what unique means. And she's like, you and Mikey both have the same DNA, and I'm not saying that's why you can connect to the artifact, but let's face it, that's why they can connect to the artifact, because the scriptwriters can't think of anything else. And the DNA strands are an exact match for each other. Apparently, DNA looks like party poppers. And then after saying that the DNA was unique to him, she goes, yeah, that DNA, it's 2 in a billion. She has absolutely no idea what unique means. But also, I looked it up, and pre-Covenant War, the population of all humans in the sort of Halo universe, according to the wiki, is 39 billion. Which means there's actually 78 of these people that can interact with the artifact. And people can say every human life is valuable. But you've got to be honest, 78 means you've got a few spares. Worst case scenario, you lose both these people. Okay, that's a tragedy. You do have 76 more people, though. Gotta be honest, that's a price I'm willing to pay. And she did say the chance of that DNA occurring. Well, okay, but what if it's not done by chance? What if it's deliberately engineered and put there by an actual alien race? She didn't even think of that, or plan for that, or put that into her mathematics, but of course she didn't, because she's an absolutely terrible scientist that doesn't deserve a position. But Master Chief goes back to Mikey and goes, it's not there, the planet. And Mikey's like, am I a prisoner here? Yeah, that's a normal standard response. I also like how they've given her new clothes compared to the hospital outfit. And obviously, when you give a strange prisoner a uniform, you immediately get it so they can show cleavage. Hi, here's these new clothes that you have no choice but to wear. And show me them puppies. But don't worry, because Master Chief has incredible stomach cramps, presumably from a dodgy curry before or something. We've all been in this position at one time or another. I tell you, dude, some of them spices are insane. That's also the expression of anyone that walks into the bathroom afterwards.
It's killing you.
It was worth it, though. And then she just dives right off the deep end, giving him a story of, oh, when you first touched the keystone, it told you stories, beautiful stories. And then the stories turned dark, and they scared you. So the keystones are designed to do this, are they? They're designed to show you your childhood. That seems absolutely pointless for a device which is meant to unlock the Halo ring. She's like, you were desperate to unlock its secrets. What secrets? The only secrets it had are because his memories were taken away from him. She had no memories taken away from her at all. It's not even teaching them anything. The only thing the stone did for Master Chief was to show him where the other stone was. So what's it showing anyone else? If every time I went to open my front door, it went, I'm going to show you its memory of when you were 15 and went to an ice cream van, I'd be like, this is the most pointless invention in the world. And if it's designed to unlock memories, then how did it know to EMP the base and fix his ship? Whether it's intelligent or not, it must have been designed to do that, but it seems to have been designed to unlock memories. We are the same. The way to unlock its power is to actually submit to it. And like, she doesn't even know that. What if this is like Wheel of Time and she's supposed to submit to it and he's supposed to dominate it? She has no idea at all. The only knowledge she's actually got of it is from touching some small stones herself. And at this point, he's dying from touching the device, and she's telling him to touch it again, and she's an alien spy. At this point, I wouldn't be trusting her, I'd be yeeting her out of an airlock. But to be fair, I'd do that with nearly every character in the show, so, you know, I'm a bit biased. She's like, once I surrendered, the keystones became my servants. Yes, because if you submit to someone, suddenly that makes you their master. What even is this story? And also, what are you even going to do with some stones that just conjure up memories? Unless you kind of make some kind of weird infinite wet dream, I can't think of any other use for them. Because what other memories did you have before the Covenant? Oh, you should have seen it when I was there and I just went through trash. Oh, some of the best memories of my life were where I found a bit of cardboard in the junk. And she's like, you need to go and touch it again. And it'll show you where the stones are. And once your stones are reunited, we will find peace. Yes, you heard it here first, folks. This is a quest for Master Chief to go out into the universe and find his stones. And if there's one thing we've learned through this series, it's that he definitely lost his stones a long time ago. This is not some big alpha male Chad warrior. Just look at him. This is a cat. And I say cat for YouTube's benefit. What I really mean is a puss. But Cortana hacks her way out of the UNSC and manages to arrive at Halsey's house. The strangest thing about this scene is that Halsey is already staring at the projector when she appears. So what, has she been like staring at it for the last 14 hours solid, willing her into existence or something? And Cortana's like, I found a way through the firewall. They were incredibly challenging. And Halsey said, I designed them that way. And I'm like, hang on. No, the dude behind you designed them. Oh, Type B's taking credit for a man's work, eh? When will anything ever change? He even says there's no pinhole in my algorithm, so it turns out she didn't actually design them at all. So that turns out to be two women in STEM who got into their positions in this show without actually deserving it, just taking credit for other people's work. Oh, you're a bigot! No, I'm just saying what the show said. All I'm saying is that for some reason, The production crew of the show seem to want to make the Type Bs all appear incredibly badly. And the best bit is, it's not intentional. But then Master Chief has a conversation with the woman in STEM, and it's essentially, I want to touch the artifact. She says, no, it's too dangerous. And he goes, no, I really need to touch it. And she's like, okay then. And the thing that actually convinces her to let him go through with it is when she sees that it's been killing him. I'm not making this up. She says they're making you sick. What if she only wants you to touch it so that it actually makes you worse, and so they can get rid of their most powerful enemy? And then the next scene is literally her letting him do it. But this is killing you. What if this obvious trap is just there for our enemies? Let's go and do it immediately. I can't even imagine writing that scene. Just like, no, I'm not going to do it. That's insane. We can't do that. What? This could be a trap that our enemies have set up, and it could actually remove their greatest warrior. Let's go and do it immediately. But for some reason, the creepy weirdo actually knows that he's approaching the artifact. This has never been explained and doesn't make any sense for a device solely designed to make you think you're free again. But these two people bring her something to eat, and she's there to make sure she eats. Even in prison, they don't sit in your room with you to make sure you eat. And the two of them make it sound like it's poisoned. Because she's like, where's the Master Chief? And the woman's like, first things first. Like, no, I really need to know. And the guy's like, just do what she says, and pulls out his stick. Look, I know people say make sure you eat your veggies, but that's going a bit far. And there's no reason to put this much force into it unless you're trying to make her eat poisoned food. I don't understand. Why would you care if this person that's apparently not a prisoner eats the food or not? Especially after you made her get her puppies out. But Cortana tells Halsey that they're testing the artifact on their own. And Halsey's in train, oh, they can't do that. They don't know what they're doing. So her counter to this is simply to watch it happen. I mean, they'll still not know what they're doing, but now Halsey can see it, and that's apparently much better for some reason. The woman in STEM tells him to not die, which honestly is about the level of advice you'd get from a Twitch chat in Overwatch. Yeah, Mr. Streamer, have you considered just winning? If you don't die, you'll win. Honestly, I can see why she gets paid the big bucks. So Master Chief has a resting heart rate of 30, which is about as perfect as you can get. And it's completely unbelievable, given the fact that he seems to be scared at his own shadow. And this woman's still ranting because unlike everyone else, she didn't get to see the Master Dong doing the windmill. And she states, I'm just here to make sure you eat your food. Why? But Master Chief prepares to do the death grip, and you should never do that, you'll lose all sensation. Because no, you've got to stop him. Something bad is about to happen. I can feel it. And I thought she was going to burst into song lyrics, but thankfully, we're all stopped from that one. Don't worry, it's not coming in the air tonight. Although both of these people probably are, as you're about to see. So, as all adults do, when someone won't pay attention to you, she knocks what looks like a little bottle and a pen off a table, screaming, listen to me, because that always works. And then she pushes this woman to the floor, presumably because that'll improve her ability to hear. I don't know. And then she, like, yeets her finger out and it shoots out the end. Like it's powered by momentum or something. It's like it has to be carried down the weight of a finger. And if anything, why are you doing it with this one? It's like, that's not even that stable. It's still, you'd want it on your knuckles because it just makes more of a weapon. It's more stable, or at least on all of your fingers or something. This just looks stupid. I'm not even going about the physics of it. I'm just, look, if someone threatens you and you go like that, you can't take them seriously. I don't care how dangerous the threat is. They could nuke me out of their finger. If they start doing that at me, I'm not going to be intimidated. But this woman turns around, and so she should definitely have seen her finger. If in the future she hasn't seen her finger, remember this picture, because she's no way she missed it. She's looking straight at it. And then Master Chief engages in his death grip, and everything gets very weird, because it seems like she can feel it, and there are definitely two people who are coming in the air tonight. And they really want you to know by this zoom in, and the fact she collapses to her knees while still doing the O face. His heart rate has jumped from 30 to 170. She must be really good, what can I say? You'd think this face would symbolize the end of it, but oh no, we've got a lot further to go yet. I think this is the end of phase 2. After this, I'm hoping she won't be as miserable in the next few episodes. Can you imagine if they gave her a top that was completely sealed, and in this she's just like, ah! Yeah, dude, but why are you leaving this picture on the screen? Ah, you know. I don't have to leave this picture on the scene for longer, but I am. Then she just collapses. Like, oh, she's having a seizure. She's certainly having something. At this point, he realizes when the bottle said only take 2 pills, he should have listened. But Cortana's talking to Halsey, and so she's like, you need to shut it down. He's going to damage his body. Because she doesn't care about Master Chief. She only cares about the body that she wants to take over. But Halsey doesn't care about the state of his body. She's just like, I need to see this. And I think we're up to his 5th now. I can't count, but whatever it is, he's going to need to change his armor afterwards. And for anyone who was disappointed that we didn't see any Master Cheeks this episode, you did if you had a keen eye. You actually get to see a bit more of this, it's just difficult to pause on, because it immediately cuts to the creepy scientist, admiring the view, and Cortana's like, please let me shut him down, I need to. I'm supposed to take over that body, I don't want my body damaged. No, I need to see this, I need to. I can't believe you would let my meat sack be damaged. I need that in the future. And I think we're setting up for the fact that Cortana is going to actually stop listening to Halsey in the future because of this moment. And it's going to be like, see, Cortana isn't evil. And it's like, no, she is. She's worried about his biological being, not him. And you can't make it so she ever actually does care about him because it's the core of her programming and the only reason she was created. And just when you think he can't take it anymore, he's up to like his 17th at this point and he's about to blow his own knob off, everything is eventually saved. Because that's right, Master Chief has managed to squirt his own consciousness onto the Halo ring. And at this point, some people are like, I'm amazed he could survive a heart rate at 200 beats a minute. And I'm just like, I'm amazed he didn't squirt himself inside out. And she has no idea what's going on, but that's not surprising. It's her usual state of being. And then he turns around and she's there. Somehow. I don't know whether it's because she was in a local area or whether it just beams people in at random. It doesn't really make any sense. All we really know is she got like this weird post-coital twitching going on. So Halsey asked the computer to overload their brainwaves, and they're the same. And that's not how brainwaves work. You would have to have the same brain with the same thoughts and the same position and the same it doesn't make any sense. Then we see the Halo ring go off up into space, and it's like, oh, ha, ha, you're supposed to care about this. And I'm like, how am I supposed to care about it? I don't know anything about this place because you've not told me. You really have to make up your mind. Is this show for people that played the games and know all the story, so will be attached to the Halo ring, or is it not for people that play the games? In which case, you're supposed to tell us what the fuck is going on? And then he starts feeling a chin for some reason. I don't know. I mean, I suppose if you've had that many crises together, there's got to be some kind of attachment, but it's still weird. I just want to make sure you've got a chin. Oh, he only touched her to make sure she was physically there. Yeah, but they're not physically there, are they? And then as she has her final one, I don't know where we are, we're up to about 35 or something at this point. It's a bit weird. She's obviously got heavy breathing and twitching. It kind of feels like this episode needs an 18+ rating. I don't know what's going on. And then we end the show with Master Chief and his one expression. And the woman goes, I thought we'd lost you there, Chief. Yeah, but we both know we're never going to be that lucky. You're like, where did you go? I'm like, I don't know, but I have a feeling it ended in hub. And that was it. And I've got to say, at this point, are we still any further on than the end of the first episode? Because I don't think we are. Now, he knows the Halo ring exists, but they said the name a while ago, and the only thing that's changed is that now he's seen it, and it goes up in the sky. The rest of the episode was a load of talking in corridors, which went absolutely nowhere, and hasn't moved the plot on at all, and I feel like I always say this at the end of every episode since episode 1. At this point, we haven't learned anything, gained any knowledge, or gone anywhere, except for the first one. They didn't even gain the artifact at last, so we've lost that. You could have had 5 minutes at the start of the second episode that just went, Halos exist, there's another one, we need to go and get it from the Covenant, and we'd have skipped 5 episodes of pain. And I find myself wishing that this show was just incredibly awful. At least if it was awful, I'd have more to say about it. I'd be able to form more of an opinion. But because nothing happens in the show, I keep beating the same drum about, we could have just started from there. What are you doing? What are the scriptwriters doing? Where is the money going? Nobody knows. We're just sitting on this base doing nothing for episode after episode. So I don't really have anything to say because the show hasn't actually done anything. So instead, I'm going to leave it up to you. Let me know what you thought of the episode down in the comments below. If you like the video, press like and subscribe. More videos and reviews like this in the future. And I will see you in the next one because unfortunately, this show has 3 more episodes to go yet. And I honestly have no idea what they're going to fill it with because so far, they haven't filled the rest of the show with anything. So I'll see you there. But for now, that's it from me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.